I never thought I'd be the one writing one of these "my partner lied and my whole world fell apart" posts. But here I am. I've been married to my wife, Laura, for 7 years. We've had ups and downs like any couple, but overall, I thought we were solid. No kids yet, just 2 full-time careers, a dog named Max, and a house in a quiet part of Connecticut. She's in marketing, works for a company that loves to send her on conferences and retreats, and I work in IT from home. It started about 2 months ago. Laura told me she had a branding summit in New York. Pretty standard stuff. 3 days, 2 nights. I've never been the jealous type, so I said, cool. Bring me back one of those overpriced coffee mugs you always get. She smiled, that sharp, too perfect smile she gives when she's trying to hide something, and said, of course, babe. Looking back, I should have known then. It wasn't the trip itself that made me suspicious, it was how eager she was to go. I mean, this is the same woman who once cried because the Wi-Fi was bad at a hotel during a conference. Suddenly she's excited about staying in Manhattan for 2 nights? That was weird. She left on a Thursday, kissed me goodbye at 6 a.m. while I was still half asleep. Max jumped up on the bed like he always does after she leaves. I remember petting him, saying, "It's just you and me for a few days, buddy." But something about it felt off. Not even sure what. Just this low hum of anxiety in the back of my mind. Like I was trying to convince myself nothing was wrong. Then came the first red flag. She didn't answer my text until 8 hours later. And when she did, it was just busy with panels all day. Talk later, red heart. No photo. No hotel room selfie. She always does that. No shot of the view. Nothing. I tried to brush it off. Told myself I was overthinking things. But still, I checked her location on Find My iPhone, and it was off. She'd turned off location sharing. That's when my stomach dropped. I stared at my phone for a solid minute, just blinking at that little gray message under her name. Location not available. I never even knew she could turn it off. I mean, we'd always shared our locations. It was just one of those in case of emergency things, never about control. I'd never once used it to spy on her, and I'm pretty sure she never checked mine either. Until now. I texted her again. "Hey, your location's off. Everything okay?" No reply. An hour passed. Then 2. Then 5. I was spiraling. Max was picking up on my energy too, pacing around, whining. I tried to focus on work, but ended up Googling how to tell if your spouse is cheating, which felt pathetic. But I couldn't help it. She finally replied at 11:23 p.m. Ugh, phone died during the last panel. Just got back to the hotel. I'm so tired, lol. No mention of the location thing. I replied, glad you're safe. You can turn your location back on if you want. I was just worried. No response. The next morning, I tried to FaceTime her. Declined. She texted 2 minutes later. Can't talk, getting ready for a keynote. You okay? Yeah, I was so okay. Just sitting on the couch, sweaty palms, mind racing, dog staring at me like he was about to say, bro, she's lying. I called her again that night, and she finally picked up, audio only. Said she looked like a disaster after a long day. Her voice was normal, a little too normal, cheerful, even. I asked her how the summit was going. She gave me generic answers like, so many breakout sessions, and the branding strategies are really interesting. That last one felt fake. Laura hated corporate speak. She once called a team-building workshop brain-dead torture. And then, she slipped. She mentioned going out to dinner with the girls, and I asked which girls. Silence. Then, oh, you don't know them. They're from another agency. Uh-huh. The next morning, she posted an Instagram story of a latte art heart and the words self-care morning, tagged at a random cafe in Brooklyn. Brooklyn? The summit she mentioned was in Midtown. That's when I knew. Something was very wrong. I couldn't sleep that night. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling fan, listening to Max snore next to me. I felt this buzzing in my chest. Not quite anger, not quite panic. Just something. Like I was bracing for a punch I couldn't see yet. At 2 a.m., I got up and grabbed her iPad from the kitchen drawer. She rarely used it, but it was still linked to her Apple ID. I had no idea what I was even looking for. I wasn't a snooper. I've never gone through her stuff before. But this time, I felt like I had to. And there it was. Messages. iMessages synced to the iPad. And not just mine. There was a thread pinned at the top, with a heart emoji next to the name, Ben, work face blowing a kiss. The most recent message was from that night. Ben, still thinking about last night. You're so fucking dangerous. Laura, you make me bad, smiling face with horns. I swear to God, my vision tunneled. It felt like I was watching my life split in half, like I'd stumbled into some other guy's story. I scrolled up. There were messages going back months. Some tame, some not. Hotel plans. Private jokes. Pet names. He called her Lolo. She called him B. They met at another branding summit 6 months ago. Same excuse. New York again. It looked like they'd hooked up during that trip, and it never stopped. She told him things like, "You're the only one who really gets me. He's sweet, but so boring. When I'm with you, I feel alive." I read all of it. Every word like a blade. She had lied to me, straight to my face, so many times. The late nights, the dead phone, the fake names of coworkers, even a fake photo she once showed me of a conference dinner that now I realize was probably stolen from a stock image site. And the worst part? She was good at it. Too good. I just sat there in the kitchen, iPad glowing, Max's head on my lap, heart breaking into pieces I didn't know existed. I wanted to wake her up right then and scream at her, except she wasn't home. She was with him. In my state. In my city. While I sat at home like a goddamn fool. The next morning, I did what I never imagined I'd do. I pretended nothing was wrong. She called me around 10 a.m., FaceTime this time. I made sure my voice was steady, my face calm. "Hey babe, how was your night?" she asked, chipper like she just woke up from the best sleep of her life. I wanted to ask her how Ben was. I wanted to ask if she moaned for him the same way she used to for me. But instead I said, "Good. Just boring without you. How's the summit?" She launched into some rehearsed crap about workshops, speakers, and some networking mixer that dragged on forever. I smiled and nodded, knowing full well she'd spent the evening wrapped around another man. She even had the audacity to say, "I miss you." I told her, "I miss you too." And just like that, the conversation ended. And so did any remaining innocence I had about our marriage. I wasn't going to confront her yet. Not until I had everything. I didn't want her to gaslight me, spin some half-truths, cry, and convince me I'd misunderstood everything. No, I wanted to walk into that confrontation with evidence she couldn't twist. So I started collecting receipts, literally. I opened our joint bank account and cross-referenced every transaction with the dates she claimed to be on work trips. Hotels, Ubers, bars I'd never heard of. Once, a lingerie shop tagged in Soho. She hadn't worn lingerie for me in 2 years. Then I pulled up her email. She always used the same 2 passwords. Sure enough, I got in. That's when I found the real cherry on top, an itinerary. Not for a work trip. For a romantic getaway. Weekend in Montreal, just us 2 hearts. Flights. Boutique hotel. Dinner reservations for 2. Booked under the name Ben and Laura. She scheduled it during a wellness retreat her company supposedly sponsored. My hands were shaking. But here's what really ripped me apart. In a draft folder, I found a note she had started writing to him. "Sometimes I wish I could just leave and start over. But he's so safe. He'd never survive without me. And honestly, I'd probably feel guilty watching him fall apart." That was the moment I stopped loving her. She didn't just cheat. She pitted me. She got back Sunday evening. I remember standing by the front door, watching her suitcase wooling over the threshold. She looked radiant, glowing even. A fresh blowout. Her nails done. Skin dewy like she'd just come back from a spa, not a conference. Max ran up to her wagging his tail, and she knelt down like nothing had changed. "Hey baby. Oh my God, I missed you so much," she said, planting a kiss on my cheek like she hadn't just spent 72 hours cheating on me. I kissed her back. Yes, I kissed her back. I hugged her, took her suitcase, and asked if she wanted wine or tea. She picked wine. Of course she did. We sat on the couch like nothing had happened. She told me about keynote speakers and team-building exercises and even faked being annoyed about how long the dinners ran. I nodded through all of it, watching her with new eyes. She was so good at lying. I mean, Emmy-level good. I wanted to ask her, "What does Ben smell like? Do you laugh with him the way you used to laugh with me? Does he know about Max?" But I said none of that. Instead, I waited. Over the next week, I was sweet. Supportive. The perfect husband. I brought her coffee in bed, helped her with laundry, made dinner every night. I asked gentle questions about work, about the next conference, about who she was collaborating with. I was careful. She didn't suspect a thing. If anything, she seemed relieved that I wasn't asking too much. One night, she looked at me and said, "I feel like we're finally sinking again, you know?" I smiled, but inside, I was screaming. She had no idea that every night, after she went to bed, I was gathering more and more screenshots, photos, messages. I even created a secure folder, backed up in the cloud, and on a USB drive I kept in the glove box. I wasn't sure what I was building exactly, a case, a weapon, a future divorce settlement, but I knew I needed it. Because when I did finally burn this all down, I wanted to leave no ashes behind. The hardest part? Pretending I still loved her. But I had to, because the day was coming, and she had no clue. I didn't plan to meet him. Not at first. I thought I'd just gather the dirt, confront her, and be done. But the more I read their messages, the more I saw this guy inserting himself into my life. My wife, my weekends, my dog's nickname, Maxie Boy, really, Ben? The more I needed to see him. So I did something reckless. I created a burner Instagram account. No photos, no name, just a few random follows to make it seem legit. And then I followed Ben. He accepted. Idiot. His account was semi-public. A few posts locked, but enough were visible. Gym mirror selfies, shots of his Tesla, generic crypto bro quotes like, "Grind now, shine later." The man was a walking cliché in designer sneakers. But then I got lucky. He posted a story. A boomerang at a bar, some rooftop place I recognized downtown, tagged that night. He was there now, in the city, alone. No Laura. I grabbed my jacket, got in the car, and drove. It wasn't rage. I didn't even feel like a man storming in to punch his wife's lover. It was more like research, cold curiosity. I just wanted to see what kind of person she threw away our marriage for. When I walked in, he was exactly where I expected, corner booth, cocktail in hand, texting. I walked right up. "Ben?" I asked. He looked up, confused. "Yeah." I extended my hand. "I'm Laura's husband." His face dropped. It was glorious. He stood up fast, knocking into the table. "Look, man, I didn't know." "Oh, you knew?" I said calmly. "I've read everything. I've seen it all. Just wanted to see the guy she traded 7 years for." He stuttered something like, "It wasn't supposed to be like this," but I wasn't really listening anymore. I wasn't there to fight. I just wanted clarity. "Do you love her?" I asked. He looked me in the eye and shrugged. "I don't know. It's not that serious." I smiled. "Good to know." And I left. That was all I needed. He didn't love her. She was disposable to him. And me? I'd been the idiot trying to keep a house warm for someone out shopping for fire elsewhere. When I got back home from the bar, Laura was already in bed. She had one arm draped over Max, the same way she used to sleep when she actually loved me. I just stood there in the doorway for a while, watching her breathe, wondering how someone could lie so comfortably next to the person they're destroying. It hit me hard. She wasn't just cheating on me. She'd become someone else entirely. A version of herself I didn't recognize. A version that was calculated, selfish, cruel. The next day, I called a lawyer. I told him I wasn't filing yet, but I wanted to know my options. We didn't have kids, thankfully, but we did have joint accounts, shared property, a mortgage, and the dog. Max was non-negotiable. He was mine. I rescued him before I met her. She just took photos with him to boost her relatable wife image on Instagram. The lawyer told me to document everything. Financial transactions, proof of the affair, all the messages, the burner accounts, the false trip receipts, all of it. He said the more I had, the cleaner this could go. So I spent the next 2 weeks pretending like nothing was wrong. I made her laugh at dinner. I complimented her outfits. I even watched one of those trashy dating shows she loved just to keep up the charade. Meanwhile, I was moving money into a separate account, storing backups of all evidence, and quietly changing the password to the home security system. I was turning our life into a controlled demolition. One day she texted me while I was in the grocery store, thinking we should do a weekend in Vermont soon. Just the two of us, two hearts. I almost laughed out loud. The audacity. Vermont was our spot. We spent anniversaries there. Snowy cabins. Wine by the fire. And now she wanted to go with me while probably texting him under the table? Instead, I replied, "I'd love that. Let's plan it." Because here's the thing. I already had a date circled. And she was walking right into it. She was thrilled about the trip. Said it was exactly what we needed. She even posted on Facebook, of all places, about reconnecting with what matters and how quality time is everything in a marriage. I wanted to vomit. We booked the same cabin we'd stayed in for our third anniversary. Rustic, quiet, surrounded by pines, no neighbors in sight. A perfect place to reconnect. Or, in my case, to detonate the last lie holding us together. I drove us up Friday morning. She packed us lunch and made a playlist full of old songs we used to love. At one point, she reached over and held my hand, and I genuinely couldn't tell if she was playing a role or had actually convinced herself that her fantasy life with Ben could coexist with the marriage she was pretending to save. We got there in the early afternoon. It was beautiful. Crisp air. Wood smoke. Max was in heaven. That night, we made dinner together. She opened a bottle of wine. We talked. Laughed. It almost felt normal. Almost. And I could tell she was settling into the lie like it was a worn-out hoodie. Safe. Familiar. So I waited until we were sitting by the fire, glass of wine in her hand, her feet in my lap. Laura, I said. Calm. Even. She looked over, completely unprepared for what was coming. I know everything. Her smile twitched, but she played dumb. Everything what? I looked her dead in the eye. Ben. New York. Montreal. Brooklyn. Your little work summit. I've seen the messages. The photos. The receipts. All of it. The silence that followed was so pure, it almost echoed. She blinked. Twice. Then, the defense mode kicked in. It's not what you think. I laughed. I actually laughed. Then explain what you think it is. I'll wait. She started stammering, said it was a mistake, just one time, an emotional connection, I was lonely, and every other recycled line from every other betrayal story ever told. She even cried. Real tears. Big ones. But none of it worked. Because I didn't flinch. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just watched her crumble under her own guilt like a tower made of wet paper. Then I told her this. I'm not divorcing you this weekend. Not yet. I want you to sit in this. I want you to feel what it's like to be in a cabin with someone who knows you better than anyone and knows you're a liar. I stood up, took Max outside. She stayed by the fire, shaking. And for once, I knew she was the one losing sleep. The next morning, I woke up before her. Or maybe she hadn't slept at all. Her eyes were puffy, and she looked like hell. I made coffee. Didn't say a word. She followed me around the cabin like a lost kid. Can we talk? I sipped my coffee. We did. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, she said. It was never serious. I turned to her. You planned a weekend getaway with him in Montreal. You wrote him love notes. You told him I'd fall apart if you left. That doesn't sound casual to me. Her lip quivered. She started crying again. Full-on sobs this time, like that would reset everything. But I just watched. There was a time when her tears would have broken me. Not anymore. Then came the bargaining stage. We can fix this. We'll do therapy. I'll cut him off. I already did, actually. I blocked him, see? She held out her phone like it was some kind of holy offering. As if deleting a guy from her contacts erased months of lies and hotel sheets. I asked her one question. Why didn't you tell me the truth when I asked you directly, Laura? Why did you lie to my face over and over again, even when I was giving you the chance to come clean? She didn't answer. Because the real answer was obvious. She liked the double life. She liked having both. The steady, loyal husband at home and the thrill of a side guy who told her she was dangerous and wild. She was addicted to being two people. And now both masks were cracking. Later that day, she made dinner and tried to act like things were normal. She laughed too hard at a dumb joke I made, and I realized something sick. She thought this was just a rough patch, that we'd fight, cry, have make-up sex, and everything would reset. But no, I wasn't healing. I was detaching. The ride home from Vermont was silent. Not the angry kind of silence. Not full of tension or passive-aggressive sighs. It was worse than that. It was empty. Like we were two strangers who just happened to be in the same car, heading in the same direction, for no good reason anymore. She tried to put her hand on my thigh at one point. I didn't flinch or move it away. I just didn't react. And that seemed to scare her more than if I'd screamed. Because silence, when someone knows they've hurt you, is a death sentence. When we got back to the house, she went straight to unpacking. I went straight to the bedroom, grabbed my laptop, and logged into our joint accounts. Bank, insurance, mortgage, everything. I started printing things out. Statements, transfer histories, her purchases. I built folders like I was preparing for a corporate audit. Every document. From that point on, the air between us was stale. She tiptoed around me, overly helpful. folding my laundry, making my coffee, laughing at jokes that weren't funny. I could feel her trying to rewind the tape, trying to go back to the version of us that existed before she blew a hole in it. But I wasn't that guy anymore. Behind the scenes, I was making calls. One to the lawyer, one to a real estate agent, and one to my best friend, Drew, who offered me the spare room in his place for however long I needed. I didn't tell her I was leaving. Not yet, because she had spent months lying to my face, building her fantasy while I played the part of loyal idiot. So now, I was just leveling the playing field. It was a Tuesday morning. I woke up early, packed a small bag with essentials, and quietly left the house before Laura was awake. No dramatic shouting, no slammed doors, just me, stepping out of the life that had become a lie. By the time she got up, I was gone. My phone was left on the kitchen counter, screen lit up with a single message. I'm done living in your shadow of lies. I'm moving out. We'll talk when you're ready to be honest. Her response came 2 hours later, a mix of panic and denial. Please don't do this. We can fix this. I'll change. I didn't reply. Instead, I drove to Drew's place. The weight I'd been carrying for months began to lift with every mile. It wasn't relief yet, more like acceptance that I was finally doing something for me. That afternoon, I began the process of untangling my life from hers. The lawyer was ready with the paperwork. The real estate agent had lined up potential places to rent. Max was already comfortable with Drew, probably happier than he'd been in months. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was breathing. It hurt, of course it did. The betrayal, the lies, the months of pretending to be blind, but I wasn't broken. Not yet, and maybe not ever. Because sometimes the hardest thing isn't discovering the truth. It's choosing to walk away from everything you thought you wanted, and finding out what you really deserve. The first few days after moving out were a blur. I oscillated between numbness and sudden bursts of anger, like my emotions were on a roller coaster with no brakes. Sleeping in a spare room felt alien. The silence was deafening without Laura's voice around, but it was also strangely freeing. I started writing again, something I hadn't done since before the marriage. Journaling my feelings, venting the rage, the disappointment, the loneliness. It was messy and raw, but it helped. Friends reached out, some surprised, others supportive. Drew was a rock, checking in, making sure I wasn't disappearing down a dark hole. Slowly, I realized that life after betrayal wasn't just about loss. It was about rediscovery. The hardest moments were the quiet ones. When Max would curl up beside me, sensing the change, but still offering unconditional love. That dog became my anchor. He reminded me I wasn't alone. Laura tried calling, left messages, but I didn't respond. Not because I hated her, but because I needed space. Space to heal, to figure out what I wanted, who I was without her lies. And in that space, I found something unexpected, strength. If you're reading this because you're in a similar mess, trust me, I get it. The shock, the betrayal, the endless questions that keep spinning in your head. Why? How? Was I not enough? Here's what I wish someone told me before all this blew up. Trust your gut. The first time something fell off, don't ignore it. I did, because I wanted to believe the best in her. That was my first mistake. Documentation isn't just for lawyers, it's for your sanity. When you're drowning in lies, having proof helps you hold on to reality. It keeps you grounded. You're not alone. Even if your spouse becomes someone unrecognizable, you still have friends, family, and sometimes even strangers who'll listen. Self-worth isn't tied to their loyalty. Their betrayal isn't a reflection of your value. It's their choice, not your failure. Healing takes time. Don't rush it. Accept the pain, cry if you need to, but don't lose sight of your future. Don't settle for crumbs. If someone's lying to you, hiding parts of their life, or treating you like an option, you deserve better. I'm not saying I have it all figured out now. I still have bad days, but I'm starting to rebuild, brick by brick. And honestly, that feels like a victory. Starting over isn't glamorous. There are no fireworks or sudden breakthroughs. Just small, quiet moments that add up. I began by focusing on me, and Max, of course. Mornings with coffee on the porch, walks in the park, rediscovering hobbies I'd pushed aside. I reconnected with old friends and made a few new ones. Therapy helped more than I expected, breaking down walls I didn't know I'd built. Dating? Not yet. I'm still too raw for that. Besides, I want to be whole before I bring someone else in. The hardest part? Letting go of what could have been. The wedding plans, the dreams, the future we painted together. But holding on only chained me to the past. Now, I'm learning to dream again, for myself. Not for a we that never really existed. It's slow. It's painful. But it's mine. Looking back, this whole experience shattered me. But it also taught me how to rebuild stronger. If you're caught in a similar situation, here's what I want you to know. You deserve honesty. Lies aren't just mistakes. They're choices. And you don't have to accept them. Self-respect is your foundation. Without it, everything else crumbles. Healing isn't linear. Some days will suck. That's okay. Just keep moving forward. Surround yourself with people who lift you up. Toxic relationships don't end with just one person. They can spread if you let them. Focus on your future, not your past. The past is a lesson, not a life sentence. Laura's betrayal broke my heart, but it didn't break me. And if I can come out the other side, so can you. So here's to new beginnings. Messy, painful, and imperfect, but ours to write.